When we're talking about the future of Iran, it is my belief that we need to collapse the regime.
سخنرانی سناتور کروز در بنیاد دفاع از دمکراسیها در واشینگتن. آمریکا در یک تقاطع بسیار حساسی در رابطه با ایران قرار دارد. ما باید این رژیم را سرنگون کنیم.
در سالهای اخیر در پی معامله اوباما با رژیم ایران، ایده سرنگونی این رژیم را تندروانه تلقی کردند. چون ایده تغییر رژیم مترادف چیزی می نماید که ما بی خودی و احمقانه و به طور فاجعه بار در عراق دنبال کردیم. اما چنین تصوری درست نیست.
With regime change followed by endless nation building of the sort that we have needlessly, foolishly and catastrophically pursued in Iraq. But of course, that's not what it necessarily means.
من با همکارانم در کنگره به طور خستگی ناپذیری تلاش می‌کنم تا رژیم ایران را مورد حسابرسی قرار دهیم. ما باید به طور علنی و بدون رو در بایستی در مقابل رژیم شیطانی ایران بایستیم.
We must continue to vocally and unapologetically stand up to the evil Iranian regime.
زمان آن رسیده که آمریکا مکانیزم ماشه تحریمها را که در قطعنامه سازمان ملل آمده است فعال کند.
Right now, the United States is at a critical juncture in our relationship with Iran. 5 years ago, President Obama entered the United States into a nuclear agreement with Iran that gave the Iranian regime the resources to wreak enormous havoc across the region. As you know far too well, the catastrophic Obama-Iran nuclear deal reconnected Iran to the global financial system, while also flooding the Ayatollahs with hundreds of billions of dollars in sanctions relief, gifting them everything they needed to launder vast sums of money across the world for terrorism and proliferation. This included $1.7 billion in unmarked cash to the Ayatollah, which helped fund attacks against U.S. military bases as a part of a ransom for hostages, because the Obama administration knew how it would look if they implemented the deal without at least some of the hostages being released. I urged President Trump to withdraw from this disastrous deal. Within the Trump administration, there was a major battle. Both the State and Defense Department opposed pulling out of the deal. And yet, 2 years ago, President Trump agreed with me, and he pulled out of the deal. I think that's the single most important foreign policy decision that has been made in the entire Trump administration. After that, again, as you know far too well, work still remained to be done. After we pulled out of the deal, there were still a whole series of waivers in place, keeping much of the deal still alive. The most important of these was the oil waiver. We had a waiver in place that allowed Iran to sell about 1 million barrels a day of oil, primarily to China and India. And that was the principal source of revenue for the Ayatollah and for his funding of terrorism against America. Once again, there was a battle within the Trump administration about whether to end the oil waiver. The State Department argued, no, don't end the oil waivers. It'll cause the global price of oil to skyrocket. The Department of Energy, on the other hand, to their credit, took the other side. And they said, yes, absolutely end it. There's plenty of oil supply in the world. It's not going to cause prices to skyrocket. I engaged both the State Department and the Department of Energy publicly and even more vigorously in private, and made the case to the President directly, we should end the oil waiver. The President agreed. In the end, we now know that State was wrong and Energy was right. Oil prices didn't skyrocket, and so what State was saying was demonstrably false. Then there were the civilian nuclear waivers. At places like Iran's Fordo facility, which was dug into the side of a mountain specifically for the purpose of building nuclear weapons to attack the United States of America, we were allowing continued international cooperation. I was proud to lead bicameral calls in Congress with Lindsey Graham and Liz Cheney. Together, we introduced legislation to revoke the civil nuclear waivers that the administration had been granting, which allowed Iran to continue building up its nuclear program. In May of this year, after enormous battles internally within the administration, President Trump once again did the right thing and ended the civil nuclear waivers for Iran, which was a big step in the right direction. Now it's time for the United States to finally and irreversibly end what remains of the disastrous deal and the benefits that Iran gets from it by invoking the sanctions snapback described in the deal's United Nations resolution. Unless we do so, the UN's arms embargo, the ballistic missile bans, will inevitably expire, allowing Russia and China to start selling billions of dollars of weapons to Iran. Toward that end, I'm leading the push right now to get the administration to go to the UN and to invoke the snapback in UN Security Council Resolution 2231. We don't need anyone else's permission to use this mechanism. We can go there tomorrow and begin the process, which will finally shred the disastrous Obama-Iran nuclear deal once and for all. Of course, the challenges posed by Iran go far beyond the nuclear issue. The Iran regime's malign activities are well known. Missile proliferation, seeking destruction of America and our allies, including Israel, creating terror states within states in Iraq, in Yemen, in Lebanon, floating the Assad regime in Syria, funding and directing terrorism across the globe, and of course, inside Iran, over and over again, unthinkable human rights atrocities. Part of the response to these activities involved tearing up the nuclear deal, the right thing to do, because the nuclear deal forced us to give up our most powerful sanctions against these behaviors. And the Trump administration has taken significant and meaningful steps to reverse course and to impose maximum pressure on Iran and to diplomatically isolate Iran, including taking out Soleimani, a designated terrorist responsible for the deaths of at least 603 United States servicemen and women. We must do more. When we're talking about the future of Iran, it is my belief that we need to collapse the regime. You know, this used to be a straightforward and broadly accepted idea. The Iranian regime unremittingly seeks our destruction, death to America, the Ayatollah chants. And we will not be safe until it's gone. Somehow in recent years, particularly as a fallout from the Obama-Iran deal, that became viewed as a radical idea because it was seen as synonymous with regime change followed by endless nation building of the sort that we have needlessly, foolishly, and catastrophically pursued in Iraq. But of course, that's not what it necessarily means. Some people think that guns or tanks or missiles are the only things that matter. But truth has the power to transform the world. And we have the tools alongside the power of truth that stop far short of war, from bolstering our allies to economic pressure. It wouldn't be the first time we'd applied such a strategy to a regime that sought our destruction. Our options in foreign policy aren't simply sending in the Marines or doing nothing, but rather the United States should consistently be a voice for freedom. We should be a voice for human rights. We should be a voice for democracy. Because truth is powerful and it can transform the world. This is also where our strategy with Iran comes into play. Just as Ronald Reagan brought down the Soviet Union with strategic strength and by boldly speaking the truth, we likewise must work to collapse the Iranian regime that oppresses its people and seeks to sow terror all over the world. I know this is possible. And not only that, it's necessary. Please know that I'm working tirelessly with my colleagues in Congress to hold the Iranian regime accountable for working to develop nuclear weapons. Maximum pressure should mean maximum pressure. We must continue to vocally and unapologetically stand up to the evil Iranian regime. And we must exert maximum pressure and not allow the Ayatollahs to build a nuclear program. That, I believe, is the only reasonable path forward.